The Silent Hill franchise is 25 years old now, and it goes back to a crucial era when survival horror was shaping and being born in the gaming industry. During these 25 years, more than a dozen Silent Hill games were released. This includes the main series, spin-offs, and even remakes. However, despite the huge size of the franchise, almost 99% of gamers agree that Silent Hill 1, 2, 3, and 4 are the golden era and the peak, while the rest are the start of the decline.
Hey, what's the name of this place?
The reason people lean toward these games is because they were made by Team Silent, the original Japanese development team that started the series in the first place. The rest, on the other hand, were created by various Western studios, hired by Konami, but none of them succeeded in making a game that could reach the level of popularity or quality that Silent Hill achieved in the past. With that being said, Silent Hill 1, 2, 3, and 4 are not really equal in success, and in fact, even from a story and narrative perspective, they are very different.
The guy who lives here, what's he like anyway?
We can't judge Silent Hill 1 because it's the OG and the installment that started the whole thing. But when we talk about the other 3 installments, Silent Hill 2 usually stands out as the most popular, the most successful, and the most memorable. Meanwhile, Silent Hill 4 is considered the most disturbing and bizarre. But when we talk about Silent Hill 3, it simply stands out as the installment that appears to have universal appeal, seamlessly blending all the cool elements of the franchise into a single cohesive experience. Silent Hill 3 is widely considered the epitome of the series, flawlessly integrating action, psychological horror, and an exciting storyline. In this video, I'll delve into the various elements that contributed to Silent Hill 3's success and solidified its status as an exemplary entry in the franchise. Additionally, I'll reveal a special advantage it possesses over Silent Hill 2, which often goes unnoticed, particularly by those less familiar with the series. So without further ado, let's start. Heather Mason is a unique and likable protagonist for multiple reasons, and her identity and past play a role in making her the perfect choice for a Silent Hill story. Generally, she's a young girl with a typical teenage attitude. She's snarky, sarcastic, and often annoyed by the situations she finds herself in. This makes her relatable and human, leading you to feel a sense of realism about the otherwise surreal and horrifying events.
My daddy always told me not to talk to strangers.
This is very important. It's about your birth.
But despite her young age and initial shock at the horrors of Silent Hill, Heather quickly adapts and demonstrates remarkable strength and resilience. She's always ready to fight back against monsters and stand up to the game's antagonists, which really gives you confidence as a player and makes you feel that you're not controlling a weak character as you thought. However, the main reason she's irreplaceable in this game is her complex backstory. Heather's past is shrouded in mystery and related to the dark secrets of Silent Hill Town. And as the game progresses, you'll gradually start to understand her true identity and her connection to Alessa Gillespie, a crucial character in the first Silent Hill game.
Claudia is your daughter?
Oh, so you know her, do you? Are you one of her followers?
No, never.
This means Heather is not just a random person resisting the horrors in the town. She's basically an essential part of a huge, complicated story and a series of related events. Heather also experiences a range of emotions throughout the game, from fear and anger to sadness and confusion.
It's gotta be.
Her emotional journey is central to the story, as she grapples with her identity, her past, and also with the insanity around her. But as I said before, Heather is far from being a whiny character looking for help. In fact, she's one of the most resourceful protagonists in the series. She is largely self-sufficient, and she explores the other world on her own, solving puzzles and putting up crazy fights with ruthless monsters. And speaking of monsters, this leads me to another important element in Silent Hill 3's outstanding journey. Silent Hill 3 boasts a disturbingly diverse cast of nightmarish creatures, each uniquely designed and symbolically linked to the game's themes, making it, in my opinion, one of the few horror games in general that actually scares you with the monster's look and backstory. A notable example is the Closer. These grotesque figures with huge arms and twitching lips are simply creepy by default. They are very tall, wear a dirty white dress, and they are designed to have feminine features, even if you don't see them clearly. This monster is often interpreted as a symbol of Heather's traumatic childhood and her troubled relationship with her mother. Their big arms could represent the feeling of being overwhelmed or suffocated by an overbearing maternal figure, while their obscured faces suggest a lack of identity or emotional connection. This is just a theory, but as you know, Silent Hill is all about using our imaginations and reading what's between the lines, because everything here means something.
Get the hell away from me!
Another terrifying enemy in the game is the Insane Cancer, and you obviously feel that they're not friendly from their names alone. Insane cancers resemble morbidly obese, naked humanoids with large tumors protruding from their bodies. Their skin is pale and blotchy, and their heads are misshapen and distorted. Even though they move slowly and awkwardly, they can also run toward you and strike with surprising speed compared to their weight. According to many theories, their grotesque appearance and tumors symbolize the physical corruption and decay caused by the Order's influence and the evil power lurking in Silent Hill. Some theories also suggest that this monster might be a manifestation of the deity that Heather is scared of carrying inside her. It may be a representation of a fetus slowly growing and coming back from death, and the tumors may be a symbol of disease, which is obviously the evil that this baby is supposed to be. But please don't believe the bizarre monsters end there, because Numbody takes the creepiness to a whole new level. Numbodies are outlandish creatures with emaciated skeletal forms. Their skin is pale and cracked, resembling dry peeling paint. They have a single eye protruding from a fleshy lump on their head, and their limbs are long and slim, ending in sharp claws. They also come in two sizes: smaller ones that emit childlike cries and larger ones that let out a more powerful roar. When it comes to symbolism, it's very complex and open to interpretation, and even the designer himself refused to give a clear idea about it. Some say their emaciated bodies and cries of pain evoke a sense of vulnerability and suffering, hinting at the emotional pain and trauma experienced by Heather. In other words, the childlike cries may symbolize Heather's repressed childhood and the mental struggle she carries with her. Just like with Insane Cancer, some interpretations suggest that Numbodies also resemble unborn babies, relating them to themes of pregnancy, which is relevant to Heather because she's meant to give birth to the deity that the cult wants. If you imagine the crazy monsters are over, then please let me introduce Slurper. Slurpers are dark, fleshy creatures with elongated bodies and gaping maws lined with sharp teeth. They lack limbs, which is very disturbing, and they move by slithering along the ground. This explains why they attack by biting Heather's legs. The backstory behind this monster is also open for your wild imagination to guess. Their scary male, human-like form with shorts on could represent Heather's fear of stalkers and abusers. The way he grabs her leg is also said to be a manifestation of behaviors that a woman would expect from a predator. This is actually part of the overall theme here, because Heather's fear of being pregnant with the cult's deity makes all these elements relevant to her nightmares. And speaking of nightmares, it's time to talk about another major element that really made Silent Hill 3 undeniably spooky. If there's one thing that Silent Hill revolves around more than anything else, it must be psychological horror. And in order for a Silent Hill game to shine, it has to be a masterpiece on this side specifically. And in case you don't know, Silent Hill 3 does exactly that. As I already explained earlier, the protagonist here is Heather Mason, and the game delves deep into her past traumas and her struggle with identity.
Help! Help! Do you hear those voices? A family of 4 was sliced into bloody pieces in this room. Oh, the cries of the children.
The manifestations in Silent Hill Town here are reflections of her inner turmoil, fears, and repressed memories. Beside that, the environments and creature designs here are abnormal and symbolic, often representing distorted versions of real-world places and figures, which means that even the regular stuff can become incredibly disturbing because they symbolize a harsh memory or event. The game also does an incredible job of making the real world and the other world look similar, making you question what is real and what is a manifestation of Heather's psychological state. This oppressive atmosphere is boosted by the use of darkness, unsettling imagery, and a haunting soundtrack that forces you to always feel stuck, isolated, and vulnerable. Additionally, Silent Hill 3 loves to mess with your mind. It often uses mental manipulation tactics such as mysterious messages, disturbing hallucinations, and surprising twists to shock you and convince you that you don't really understand what's happening around you.
Am I back?
In other words, guys, you can easily say that Silent Hill 3 is a psychological experience to the core, especially when you understand the backstory and the history of the characters. This takes us to another element that contributed to making this installment special and unforgettable. Silent Hill 3 is known for having one of the most memorable antagonists in the entire series because the main villain here is not the typical evil enemy you would expect. Claudia Wolf is more than just an antagonist. She is a complex person capable of confusing you before you can understand her. She is a high-ranking member of the Order, a cult devoted to summoning a deity they believe will be born and purify the world. She was raised within the cult and experienced a harsh childhood, including abuse from her father for any behavior she did against the cult's rules. This past shaped her twisted beliefs and fueled her fanatical devotion to the Order's mission even more. Claudia sees humanity as inherently flawed and believes that only through superior intervention can the world be cleansed of corruption and suffering. However, don't let her crazy mindset fool you. Claudia here is very intelligent, charismatic, and manipulative. She is able to sway others to her cause and is willing to even use violence and deceit to achieve her goals. Furthermore, she is not as heartless as you might think. She is shown to be capable of genuine emotions, such as grief and love, particularly towards her childhood friend Alessa. Claudia's actions across the game are driven by her bizarre beliefs. She orchestrates the events that lead Heather to Silent Hill and manipulates others to further her plans. She is responsible for the deaths of several characters, and she's even ready to sacrifice herself to achieve the cult's goal. In other words, this woman's psychotic mentality is based on her real loyalty to the cult, and this is what makes it hard to confirm if she's truly evil or not. Her motivations are rooted in a desire to create a better world, but her methods are extreme and ruthless. Her personality serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of blind loyalty and the potential for good intentions to lead to destructive consequences. And speaking of destruction, I believe it's time to talk now about some action and how this is also another positive side of the game. Compared to its predecessors, Silent Hill 3 is definitely an improvement if we're talking about combat. It offers a wider variety of weapons and more responsive controls, making encounters with monsters more engaging. From the steel pipe and maul to the powerful sword and the beam saber, each weapon has different attack speeds, damage output, and even reach. You can perform light and heavy attacks, and certain weapons have their own unique attacks too, as well as charged attacks for causing more damage. On top of that, Heather can dodge enemy attacks very well here, and she can also block using some weapons. On the firearms side, the game also serves you nicely. It features a variety of firearms, including the handgun, shotgun, and submachine gun, and each one has different ammo types, power, and range. Other awesome items here include a stun gun, a flamethrower, and even a weird perfume. The funny part is that when you use the perfume, you literally trigger enemies to come at you, which means that you'll feel crazy for using it. However, it can be useful if you're in an area full of enemies and you want to drag them to one place where you can kill them all at once, if you're sure about your capabilities. And by the way, the gun silencer here plays a huge role in reducing noise, so you can avoid attracting other enemies in case you're not ready for a full battle. Long story short, the combat here is actually rich, diverse, and strategic, making it another positive point in the overall experience. But if you think Silent Hill 3 stops being impressive here, then you're wrong. One of the most important aspects of Silent Hill as a series was always the environment. The Silent Hill town is basically considered a character in itself, but Silent Hill 3 simply escalates that aspect even further. The constant shifts between the real world and the other world here create a disorienting and unsettling atmosphere, featuring visceral and grotesque transformations of familiar locations. The game seamlessly transitions between the two worlds and takes you to a nightmarish dimension without you even noticing it, reflecting the character's inner turmoil. Furthermore, the real-world locations, such as the shopping mall, subway station, and apartment building, are meticulously detailed and feel very authentic for a 2003 game. This grounding in reality makes the transition to the other world even more jarring and disturbing, because in 1 second, you feel like you're in a safe, familiar area, and in the other, boom, you're basically in a nightmare. The environments are not just visually striking, but also rich in symbolism. The colors, textures, and materials found in each location often represent the underlying themes of the game, such as decay, desperation, and fanaticism. Many areas in the game are also deliberately designed to be narrow, small, and claustrophobic, specifically to trigger more fear in your mind and also make Heather look even more vulnerable and helpless. The environments here are also insanely rich and meant to tell a story through visual clues, graffiti, and scattered notes, revealing details about the characters' pasts, the history of Silent Hill, and the dark forces at work. And speaking of clues and notes, it's time now to explain how Silent Hill 3 is also an incredible challenge for your brain as much as it is for your gaming skills. If you're someone who enjoys solving challenging puzzles that can force you to scratch your head at times, then Silent Hill 3 is something that was made for you. The game has many easy and average puzzles, but it also has ones that seriously require lateral thinking, obscure clues, and multiple steps to reach a solution. Some puzzles rely on ambiguous signs or riddles that require deciphering hidden meanings or codes. In many cases, the solutions are not obvious, requiring you to think outside the box and try unconventional approaches. The game often provides minimal guidance or direction, which forces you to explore your surroundings and experiment with different solutions. Some puzzles even involve multiple steps or components, and this requires you to solve each part before progressing to the next. One of the most confusing puzzles here is called Shakespeare Anthology, and in order to solve it, you need to interpret a poem and find certain books in a library to obtain a code. It might seem simple at first, but it's literally a pain for your brain if you play in hard mode, and it will push you to use the internet eventually. Another tricky puzzle is called Flame Purifies All. This one involves burning a painting of a creature resembling the Incubator, a major antagonist in the game. The puzzle solution varies depending on the difficulty level, with a chemistry book providing a clue on easier modes. Even though I mentioned all the cool elements in the video so far, I'm pretty sure you know they can be found in Silent Hill 2 as well. However, there's one specific detail that gives Silent Hill 3 a slight advantage if we're talking about the storyline in Silent Hill's core. There's no question that Silent Hill 2 is an iconic installment in the series, and one of the best psychological games in history. But what many people don't know is that it has nothing to do with the story of Silent Hill 1, and even its characters are basically new faces with their own history that's far from the cult. In other words, Silent Hill 2 is basically a standalone story that explores different sides of the town's dark history and symbolism, but it's not a sequel in any shape or form. On the other hand, Silent Hill 3 is a direct sequel to Silent Hill 1. It features the return of characters from the first game and continues the story of the cult in Silent Hill Town, which is the main story of Silent Hill as a franchise. Heather here is related to Harry Mason from the first game, and Claudia is related to Dahlia and Alessa Gillespie, and they all basically share a very complex past that ties them together.
If not for him, our dream would have come true. And then he took you away from us.
I'll get you for this!
This might not be important to normal gamers who play Silent Hill games as a casual experience, but for Silent Hill enthusiasts who pay much attention to the story and every detail, this is a worthy point that makes Silent Hill 3 crucial in the series, especially since it's basically the best Silent Hill game we've ever had that actually continues the main story. As I said before, Silent Hill 2 is known to be the most popular and iconic in the franchise, while Silent Hill 4 is known for being the most disturbing and bizarre. But Silent Hill 3 is the one that combines both sides into one experience. It's scary, disturbing, deep, and also sad and emotional.
No! No!
Anyway, this is all I wanted to say about this unforgettable game. Tell me in the comments what you think about its role in the series, and if you believe it's worth a remake in the future or not. And by the way, if you want to explore the story of Silent Hill 4, you can also watch my video about it, which explains its creepy journey from beginning to end. I still to this day see it the most disturbing in the series, and for good reasons too. Anyway, give this video a like if you loved it, and see you very soon.
I am Claudia.
So what?
Remember me, and your true self as well.